Thank you very much, Jeff, and thanks to Anna for inviting me to share what we are doing here at the University of Saskatchewan. So, my name is Bunyamin. I'm professor and Ministry of Agriculture Strategic Research Program Chair in Chickpea and Flax breeding at the University of Saskatchewan Crop Development Center. So I'm going this morning to present a little bit what we are doing here in flax breeding and what is the current or ongoing research at the University of Saskatchewan. So similar story that Dr. Rahman has presented. So flax production in Canada also is on the trending like lower. So in 2024, even we believe that it's kind of the lowest in the last how many decades in Canada. So you see that the highest peak in the last 10 years or so was in 2015, and then since then it's start declining. And at the same time, if you look at globally, okay, so while Canada is down, so its production moves somewhere else. So you see here the most significant producer coming to play is from Kazakhstan and Russia. So the production is increasing, kind of taking over the market and globally. So in Saskatchewan itself, so if you look at in Canada on average, so we have around 320,000 hectares over the years. And again, in 2022, close to 320,000 hectares, and 23 kind of going down. So on yield on average, it's about like 23, 25 bushel per acre, similar. So if you look at into kilogram per hectare, 2018 to 2020 is around like 1,400 to 1,500 kilograms or 1.5 tons per hectare. It's down in 2021 because very dry conditions in 2021, and 2022 back about 1,500 kilogram per hectare across the country in Canada. Now, if you look at compared to flax, big brother, which is canola, you can see from 1990 to 2020, flax kind of flatten, even kind of up and down and trending lower. But at the same time, the oilseed, one of the major oilseed crop in Canada or in Saskatchewan, canola is kind of really zooming from 1995 up to date. And then here, if you look at the actual yield between the two crops, canola versus flax in pound per acre, you can see kind of comparable from 1990 to 1995, and we look at the data, and then since 1995, when the hybrid canola came into the market, so the yield gap just getting wider between these two crops. So if you look at the gain yield in canola and flax over the years in Canada or in Saskatchewan, canola gained about 32 pounds per acre per year on average, whereas in flax it's only 9.6 pounds per acre per year, which is kind of really much lower. So this will translate into kind of the economic benefit for the farmer. So if you look at, for example, canola versus flax price, Saskatchewan from a few years back, 1990 to 2019, is quite similar. But then with the much higher yield in canola, of course, then the price in the acre just moved to canola than flax. So there's an opportunity though and challenge in flax, for example, to make it really competitive with canola. We need to increase flax yield by 35%. Okay, so that's a kind of a tall order perhaps, but I think we may be kind of reaching maybe half or reaching to that target. And also keep in mind that the flax is still relatively low input cost compared to canola, for example. And then in area where clubroot and other diseases really infected canola, so flax really still offer an alternative in crop rotation in those regions. So there's still advantages of growing flax agronomically in Saskatchewan. So here, 2024 insure acreage in Saskatchewan. So you can see it's mostly concentrated in the south, east, and central Saskatchewan. So it used to be the largest producer of flax was in Manitoba, and then over the years, soybean took over those acreage and canola, as well as canola. So flax now more into the Saskatchewan crop, and even in Saskatchewan, it's kind of moving west mostly. So from the black soil zone in the eastern part of the province, south part of the province, which is really neighboring with you with North Dakota, and then move to the west into the dry region. As it moves to the west, kind of there is even more like a yield depression because of the dry conditions. So this is the insured acreage from the crop insurance. So it's about 235,000 acres or 236,000 acres within the province of Saskatchewan. And this is what people grow, the varieties that were grown in Saskatchewan. This is the data from the insured acreage from the crop insurance. So 2022, 2023, 2024 used to be CDC glass dominating the acreage in Saskatchewan. Now it's CDC Roland seems to be trending up. So just to remind you that there seems to be in flax the uptake of new varieties relatively slow. So we constantly kind of introduce the advantage of the new varieties, but the acceptance or the adoption of these new varieties comparable to other compared to other crops is relatively slow. So for example, CDC Bethune, which been kind of been there from 1998, still being grown in significant acres in Saskatchewan. So we like farmers to switch into the newer variety that we have developed to get the yield benefit from these new varieties. So if you look at, for example, here, one of the challenge and opportunity what we have here in Saskatchewan. So this is the yield from our trial of the oldest varieties compared to the newer variety that we have. So the dot, every single dot or diamond here is the different varieties. So we have two new varieties that kind of stand out in 2020, okay, released in 2020. So CDC Roland and CDC Kernan, which is much higher yielding compared to all the other varieties that are available out there. And the red line here is the average yield in Saskatchewan from 2000 to 2020. So with that, you can see that there's still a yield gap between what we see, what we got in our multi-location trials and what the actual farmer. So number one, we need to encourage farmers to switch into the newer varieties that's showing a higher yield potential, and also to improve their agronomy of flax to maximize the yield potential in their farm. So this is wide range from agronomy, disease, seeding rate, seeding time, and all the way to weed management in flax. So this is the seed guide from 2024. So we update it every year, the seed guide with the new varieties. So the check in the seed guide is the CDC glass. So you can see how many years been there and then what are the yield potentials in different areas in Saskatchewan, area 1, 2, and area 3 south, area 3 north, and under irrigation. The relative maturity, the seed size, the lodging, powdery mildew, fusarium wilt. So you can see there's a wide variety. So these are the red box here. This is the newer varieties that we released recently. So CDC Roland showing much higher yield potential. And recently we also released two new varieties, CDC Kernan and CDC Asme. They're showing a potential compared to this glass. So you can see, for example, if compared to Bethune, the older variety is much higher yield potential. And again, we keep communicating with farmers to switch into this newer variety that is now available, are available to their areas. So in terms of the breeding itself, what we are targeting is, of course, the yield. So we really like to push the yield. The tall order or goal here, 35%. So maybe if I can reach 20% from what we have now, I'm very happy. So early maturity and resistant to lodging and disease resistant. So all the way from Fusarium wilt, Pasmo, powdery mildew, and rust. Some of the disease, kind of we do the screening using molecular markers on the routine basis for rust, for example, and also seed quality from the visual all the way to the composition. So we are targeting oil content 15% and ALE content somewhere between 60 to 70% of the total oil, high seed protein. Okay, so 30% dry seed weight and plant stature to kind of allow it's part of the straw management. And also now we start looking for into the quality, the that becoming kind of more and more importance in the market. So we look into now incorporating for the low cadmium. And the other one that kind of still quite challenging is to reduce the anti-nutritional compounds such as low CG, cyanogenic glycoside and flax. So this is just give you a snapshot what we have in the program. This is data from 2023, and we have more lines coming in 2024. So for example, here there are quite significant yield increase compared to the check varieties in different areas in the testing zone. So these are still all breeding lines. So we continue to evaluate across location and years so that we have we confident when we release the varieties that the yield potential is there. So I'm just going to switch now to what we are doing now, the current research. So all again gearing toward the increasing the yield gain and deliver the best varieties available to farmers as quickly as possible. So the first thing that we are one of the project that we are doing for the last few years is accelerated breeding in flax. So we kind of do the speed breeding. With this, it allow us to develop population in 5 to 6 generations per year. So our research officer, Dr. Megan House, she's joining here in this webinar. So she's leading this project. So you can see that we put the uh, just to show you like high density crop that we are doing here. Okay. So that's how the population look like in the growth chamber. And with this, for example, we can approach reduce each generation by 1.5 months. So for example, when we have one cross and then across different generation from F1 to the fourth generation, so we allow us the system to harvest within the different somewhere between 40 to 46 days, so 1.5 months. So that's really a saving for us to develop the population much quicker. So we apply this kind of as a test case into different application. For example, into development of population for further study, genetic study for Pasbo and Fusarium wilt. Because it allow us to do that in very quick period. And also combining that system with the visual selection. So we created a population that's aggregating for different plant stature and larger seeds. So we compare that and then make that selection as quickly as possible. And also combining the system with the molecular assisted selection. So allow us to make selection very early and then inbred or increasing the lines quickly under speed breeding conditions. So the other aspect that we are doing in collaboration with the Flax pathology program at the CDC, led by Dr. Randy Kucher and his technician Keiko Nabetani, so to develop an indoor screening for Pasmo disease. Pasmo been around for flax for decades, for a long time. However, seems to be there's no one working to develop indoor screening. So mostly the screening is done outside in the field under summer, and then pasmo symptom usually showing up at the end of the season when the plants close to maturity. So it really takes a long time in the field to get the disease score for pasmo. So with the flop, Keiko led lead this program to develop an indoor screening so that will allow us to do the screening all year long. So we tried different methods, for example, combining this with speed breeding to increase the plant, to push the plant into flowering and then do the infection, and also during the flowering, and also doing it at the seedling stage. So whether it is can allow us to do the screening at that stage. We're also increasing, like Dr. Rahman, to increase the diversity in flax, but we are using the wild species, which is the progenitor of flax. So you can see the progeny from that cross. Again, flax is one of the crop that has very low harvest index, only 30% on average, compared to, say, in cereal like 50% or higher. So we like to change the agronomy, the structure of the plants, by going back into the original source. So you can see the middle one here, where you see a lot of bolts and branching that will increase the harvest index in flax and yield in general. So compared to conventional variety, as you see on the surrounding plot here. And also that source also excellent source for pasmo tolerance resistance. So this is the study by our students in JU. Okay, so that's the same time. And also, again, Dr. Megan House, now we started the new program to screen flax for heat tolerance. We know that under heat stress, it's really hurting flax, a lot of abortion. And you can see under our initial preliminary screening, okay, the bold numbers under heat and under control is significantly much lower, almost nothing you can get from this. So we like to screen the germplasm and different sources, and also including the progeny from wild cross for heat tolerance. And also we increasing to speed up the program. We use a winter nursery in New Zealand. So this is January 10, 2020, January 20th, 2025, where we have our nursery in New Zealand that will come back here in April and ready for further selection in Saskatchewan. So these are our staff. We have Shannon, Chamara, Sinji, our student, Yoon, Megan House. She's also in this program. Ken Jekyll. We have Barb, Sydney, Brandon, and McKenna. I think the couple of Brandon and McKenna also joining this webinar. So they are working on Flax. Thanks for their hardworking and also funding source from SICAN, Saskatchewan government, SASFLAG, WGRF, Manitoba Crop Alliance, and Sustainable Canadian Agriculture Partnership. So all much appreciated. Thank you again.